been building to this, Ben and Matt's Marvellous Journey, a deep dive into the history of the MCU. This was all plotted out with the release of Avengers Infinity War in mind. This was supposed to fall on the 10th anniversary of the MCU. Marvel fucked that up, but we are undeterred. We are Ben and Matt. My name is Matt Waters. I'm joined by Ben Phillips, who has very kindly been just sitting there not telling me everything that happened and all his thoughts about this movie because he got to see it several days before me. Ben, how are you? Are you happy that the release valve is coming off now and you can talk about this film?
Yes. Oh my god, yes. I saw it twice in the time it took you to see it once.
That's true.
I took myself to the cinema to see it again on Sunday after my IMAX screening, just to kind of like... I don't know, I felt like I needed to sit on elements and I needed to see elements a second time just to see how they like fit together.
Yeah. Certainly an awful lot happened. Like, after seeing it, I was sort of racing to a facility to, like, type it all up. Just get it all on paper before it just leaves my mind. And I'm sure over the course of the next probably 2 hours, there are going to be things that I'm going to wish I had said that I forgot about, or maybe you'll bring up a beat and I'm like, oh, yeah. But, you know, we'll do our best. Obviously, up front, spoilers massively in effect.
Yeah, if you have any plan to see this movie and you've not seen it yet, I'm genuinely worried for you.
So, I mean, overall, I loved it. We haven't actually shared our thoughts on it yet. I wanted to keep that as a nice little surprise until we did this.
I'm so happy. That's a massive relief. I was worried you were going to be like, I hated it.
No. I thought it was excellent. I'm going to find it difficult to place it on a ranking. I know that you immediately, after seeing everything, immediately update your rankings.
Yeah, I did. This is the first one I slept on. I think this is the first movie where I didn't go for my gut feeling. I mean, my gut feeling is not as good as Avengers 1, better than Avengers 2, not as good as Black Panther, but then, that obviously there's orders of magnitude in between those two different things, so I feel like it's a top 5 for me.
I also feel it's a top 5. I find it really difficult to compare to a lot of the movies that I like a lot, because those are so driven by a small, intimate, emotional story, and it's not that this doesn't have intimate moments and a huge amount of emotion in it. It's just, it's so big. This was hyped all to hell, and there was this fear in my mind that it wouldn't live up, but epic is the word to use. It's a word that is bandied about a lot, but I think this is fitting of it. This was a penultimate episode of a season of Game of Thrones style event, here's a billion extras, here's a massive scale battle, and there's a ton of it, and there's a lot of massive repercussions. There are character deaths. How much those are going to stick, we'll get to, but because of that, because it is so grand, I kind of find it difficult to put that side to side with films that I like a lot that are smaller, like a Spider-Man Homecoming, like a Black Panther, like a Thor Ragnarok. There are elements about it I prefer over Avengers, and I prefer over Civil War, but then there are aspects I don't like as much. So again, I'm going to struggle to rank this overall. But yeah, I certainly feel it is a top 5 MCU movie for me.
Yeah, it's interesting to read the complaints, because I can see a lot of merit to the complaints. Like, it is so big, and there is very little time for some characters. Like, a lot of characters come in and they basically just have to be summed up by one line, or in different ways, like what Black Widow gets maybe 3 lines in this whole movie.
Sure, but what I was going to say that the biggest task they had going into this, that everyone was thinking, how the hell are they going to do this? How are they going to balance? I think they had 64 major names written down on a piece of paper or something like that. Probably 2 pieces of paper, if we're being honest here. I think they did a really good job, considering the sheer enormity of that cast. Of course, you would like to hear a lot more from Black Widow and people like that, but I think literally everyone got a chance to shine, whether it was a tiny little single moment or several. Falcon and War Machine aren't doing a huge amount, but they're also not forgotten about, I don't think.
No, I think this movie does better than Age of Ultron does in balancing a bigger cast.
War Machine's doing more here than he does in that, and I think he's probably got less screen time.
Yeah, and it's stuff like no one is as shafted as Thor was in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Which speaks volume.
Like Black Widow, 3 lines maybe, kicking a lot of ass. She takes it to Proxima Midnight.
When you look at the kind of the big 3 of Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, Captain America gets so little to do in this movie.
Yeah, but...
especially in comparison to how much Tony and Thor get to do. Yes. And I don't think that is going to stay, because that's getting into like future elements. But like in this movie, Thor and Tony kind of get independent storylines in which they really get to shine and get a very small cast, whereas Captain America comes in late to his storyline. And then is also with the bulk of the cast, which I don't think this movie's about Cap.
No,
but
and the Russos have made 2 movies that are, so it's probably a nice change of pace for them to get to do something. And this is going to come up. I think they did a really good job of doing imitations of other people's movies.
Oh yeah, like
and putting their own spin on some of them. Like.
Yeah, like you get a feel that like James Gunn was probably like on set or heavily consulting all the stuff with the Guardians.
Well, you remember Marcus and McFeely were slightly involved in the writing of Guardians 1. But yes. I think that may have been more planting in the Infinity War build-up stuff than the general vibe. But yeah, for sure. I feel, beyond the people who are credited for this, I feel there was probably a heavy amount of dialogue between filmmakers and producers and people who are involved in these things. So, yeah.
So I do want to ask you,
sure,
what was your favourite element of this movie?
That's hard. I'll say that, the Marvel's habitual villain problem that has been going away over time. Thanos was, if he's not number 1, he's number 2 for me of the best villains we've seen. I think where Loki has an advantage is that we got to see him develop over multiple films, but we also got to see him do a bit of spinning his wheels, whereas Thanos is, we've got another film to come from him at least, so he will get that time. But in terms of a single villain performance, this was magnificent, I thought. Josh Brolin doing major work. CG is on point, and the writing for him is excellent. I may rethink what my favourite part was, but that is the first thing that comes to mind when you ask me.
Yeah, like I do 100% think it's Thanos, and it's not only Thanos, it's the relationship between Thanos and Gamora.
Yeah,
which like is,
all right. If you want me to nail it down to a particular sequence, it's Thanos and Gamora and Red Skull. Leading up to and coming out of that, and what comes from all of that, I think all of that would probably be my favourite sequence. Yeah, that's powerful stuff. This film also has a pretty insane effect on the status quo of Marvel that is undercut slightly by their choices of characters to kill versus what films are announced and confirmed. They promised a major status quo shift, a significant change in the lineups of the teams going forward. And on the one hand, they have delivered that, but on the other, I don't quite buy it.
I get why they do what they do.
I think if they'd chosen different people, they could have potentially.
Do we want to just discuss it now?
Let's just go for it. Okay, so the film, Thanos spends the whole film trying to assemble the Infinity Gauntlet so that in a single thought he can extinguish half the life in the universe to deal with an overpopulation problem. He does succeed in that goal. The film ends with him enacting this, and we see a whole bunch of characters turn to dust, from a whole bunch of Wakandan extras to significant named characters as big as Star-Lord and Spider-Man, down to lesser people who you'd be like, okay.
The decision to dust Black Panther, every Guardian of the Galaxy apart from Nebula, and Spider-Man,
Black Panther,
Doctor
Star-Lord in particular, I was like, nah, fam. Because Gamora dies before this, and that's one that might stick, although I have my doubts. I was like, well, while she has the least to do in a Guardians film, they are doing Guardians 3, and they sure as shit ain't doing it without her, I wouldn't think. But then Star-Lord dies, Drax dies, Mantis dies, Groot dies while Rocket watches, those sick fucks. I was like, okay, nah. And like, in a world where Black Panther was a moderate hit, maybe, but it was a monster hit. They are obviously doing Black Panther 2. So that's happening. And, we have a Spider-Man Homecoming 2 announced and heavy rumours that he's appearing in Venom. The timeline of all that is whatever the fuck it is. But, yeah, I feel if they'd just been a little bit more selective about who they killed, then it might have been believable. Like, maybe some people aren't savvy to this stuff and they're like, oh, Black Panther's dead and all these people are dead. Shit, what happens next? But they had a chance to potentially sell this as a permanent thing that you could entertain as like, right, this person is dead, these people are dead. Half the universe is dead. We could have The Leftovers MCU edition. Like, the response to half the world's dead and we survived it. Now what? What does law and order mean? What does world peace mean now?
Yeah.
But they can't do that now because I just don't buy it. I think every one of those dust deaths is being reversed. What happens to the people that died under other circumstances? That's completely up for debate, particularly Gamora. But those ones, it's like, nah, sorry, I don't buy it. And, you know, some of these people could come back to life and then get killed. But now, I don't know how they're going to achieve it, because the way I read it was he broke the Infinity Gauntlet doing this. It certainly seemed to crack or be damaged. But, you know, who knows what means will be introduced to do this. And especially with Strange being one of the people that got turned to dust.
And this all seeming like it's part of his plan. I think that's
he says I looked at I can't remember 14,605 futures, one of which Thanos failed or we won, or I can't remember. I think it's that we won, and clearly this is the one.
I'm of two minds of this beat. One is they went so big with who died that I don't think any audience member could watch this and think that this was sticking. And I think that was a conscious decision, because I think it's a big moment and it's a big how the fuck are they going to rectify this? But they go so big with it that I think they want the audience to know that they are going to undo it.
Sure. I think how they play this in the next few weeks and months will be very telling as well, because I was expecting a trailer at the end of this movie or a title. I don't know how long you sit on it before you make some kind of public, like, okay, here's the very vague, non-spoilery plans for Avengers 4. I don't know, maybe they just say, look, it's coming out on this date, you'll probably get a trailer around Christmas time. You've just got to sit on it. I don't know.
Yeah, the other thing is, it is absolutely no coincidence that this is going to be the final movie in the 3 phases, and the vast majority of the people who don't turn to dust are the original 6 Avengers.
True.
That is not a coincidence. Like, I think this was a very conscious decision to be... This Avengers 4 is going to be a celebration of this team that started it all out. Like,
one last mission to save all those people. We may not all make it out.
Exactly. Yeah, like, Jeremy Renner is not in this movie, but he did shoot this stuff, and you can almost guarantee that, like, Avengers 4 is going to start with a member of his family being dusted in this event.
Oh,
and him
God, if they're all dead and he's alive, and that's what brings him back. Oh.
Yeah, like that.
If
like
Cassie Lang is dead.
Again, we're getting into the fact that, like, Ant-Man and the Wasp almost guaranteed to end with some kind of post-credit sequence, which is going to involve people from that movie turning to dust.
Yeah, because I mean, the speculation is it has to be set slightly before it, even if, like, the event begins. Well, I mean, like, at the end you see Nick Fury and Maria Hill just driving along, seemingly not all that bothered by anything, and then the dust is happening, so maybe some people are oblivious to the large scale mayhem that's happening. But
yeah, I just think the people who are left alive at the end of this movie are very much a conscious decision for it to be
Avengers
the original Avengers Forever. It's the original Avengers coming back together for one final mission. It's a celebration of what came beforehand.
Plus Ant-Man to fix the whole timeline of is he an original Avenger.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I do think that this could have worked in 2 different ways. Either you get rid of the majority of the old guard, and then this is a new Avengers team in the next movie. But I feel like they're saving that. They're saving that for a hypothetical new Avengers.
Yeah.
And this next movie is Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Mark Ruffalo, and Jeremy Renner earning their paychecks as, like, the faces of this franchise.
Yes.
And I think that works. I think that makes sense on a logistical level of why you do why you get rid of the people that you get rid of, because it does mean that this next movie can be more focused on them and can be more intimate in dealing with, like, because Tony and Cap do not share a single scene in this movie. We do not get any repercussions of what happened in Civil War.
He was thinking on it, though. He was looking at that flip phone.
Yeah, so, like, there are so many beats and so much to these characters that we do not get a conclusion to, that I like what is being promised, and I do hope that we don't all of a sudden get it's the original 6 Avengers. Rocket, War Machine, Nebula, Ant-Man, and Captain Marvel are also going along with them, because that kind of muddies the water a little bit. Like, which, I mean, I'm sure they will all be involved in some way, but I do hope that this does hint at a streamlined, focused version of Avengers 4.
Yeah. Okay. Shall we get into this then?
Yes.
Let the journey begin. Released real fucking recently, April 27th, 2018 in the US of A. We only got it like 1 day early here, so that sucks. Budget, $321 million speculated. That may go up or down as more information is released. That current projection would put it $5 million more than Age of Ultron, making it their most expensive movie. That says a lot about Age of Ultron, I think, more than anything. The box office numbers are, of course, in their infancy. It has opened incredibly strong. Strongest of all time for an opening.
Strongest domestic opening of all time, strongest worldwide opening of all time, second strongest international takings for an opening weekend, and the second best opening day of all time.
Well, there you go then. I wonder if it being a less upbeat affair will hurt its sort of repeat viewings, because Avengers obviously got a ton of, and Black Panther clearly got a ton of, like, I'm going to go see that again. And I know you have seen it again, which sort of defeats that point. I saw Avengers twice. I don't think I will see this until it comes out on DVD. It's quite heavy viewing.
It's super heavy.
I could be completely wrong. People may go see this 3, 4, 5, 6 times, but to me, I wonder if that will hurt, if it will get a ton of first viewings and then not as many repeats, but we will see how that plays out.
Yeah, I heard a lot of angry voices in the cinema.
Okay. Yeah, a woman was complaining that she didn't like the ending because it isn't clear what actually happened, and it's like, well, I think it's actually very fucking clear. But
again, like, and this is something that I was hinting at earlier. Like, the difference in opinions comes between people who watch movies and people who read comic books. People who read comic books take this ending and go, okay, yeah, this is a very comic booky cliffhanger to a big event series, and the next movie's
we'll get that fixed right up in a year's time. Some people may not know there's another Avengers movie in one.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Is like there probably are people who watch this movie and expect it to be a self-contained entity, and also, like, one opinion I heard was that, oh, the next movie's going to undo it. So what was the point of this movie?
Wow.
Which, like,
undoing it doesn't mean they didn't experience dying, doesn't mean that it's going to be easy to fix, doesn't mean that some of these deaths aren't going to stick.
Yeah, like, that's the thing, is like, and that's an opinion that I do feel comes from people who primarily watch movies, especially because this is the first mega franchise that is doing something like this. Yeah. This is a legit cliffhanger. Yeah. This is the biggest cliffhanger the MCU have done. This isn't like a Lord of the Rings type thing where, like, it's 3 books and so you know it's going to be 3 movies. Like, this is, no one has any idea what's going on afterwards because we're completely off book. We have no idea what the next movie's about. Yeah. So, like, there's no one in the audience sat there going like, haha, I know exactly how they're going to wrap this all up.
I mean, I'm sure they are going to do it, but one would have thought, oh, someone will get the time stone and back we go. But as I said, at the very least, Thanos has the time stone, and also I think all the stones and the gauntlet are broken, but we will see. Directed by the Russos, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. You've heard the credits. They are the big boys. They get to drive the big car. It's them. They are the guys behind everything. 149 minutes long, 2 minutes longer than Civil War, making it the longest MCU movie to date.
It really doesn't feel it.
It feels long.
It feels long. I just don't think, like, I both times I've seen it, it feels.
But so much.
There's so much happening that you get swept away by these long 25 minute long action sequences.
I don't think there's any fluff whatsoever. But again, I've seen it once, like 3 hours ago, or 4 hours ago. Not a huge amount of development to go through, really. They announced it in October 2014, before the release of Age of Ultron. A pattern of releasing things before announcing sequels before the films have come out. Originally, this is quite key, announced as Avengers Infinity War Part 1. They backpedaled on the naming. I feel there was some backlash to that. I think people don't like knowing that something is a Part 1 ahead of time. We've seen a number of films do this. I think Harry Potter really started it, but Twilight did it, Hunger Games did it. Sure, something else did it, but yeah, I think that's marketing, and the ending of this movie makes it very clear that it is still a Part 1, Part 2 scenario. So,
yeah, I think a lot of this movie is them realizing they've made mistakes in their announcement.
Yes.
Like, if they'd announced just Avengers 3 and then this movie came out and they said, like, oh, Avengers 4 is coming in 1 year's time, Like, that would blow minds. If they hadn't announced Spider-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy were coming out afterwards, then I think that, again, raises the stakes on this ending. Like, not a lot, but just enough.
It's impressive that they've managed to not announce a whole ton of things coming in the future. It would have been even more impressive if they had managed to just come out and say this is called Infinity War, not reveal there's another Avengers movie coming a year later, because they filmed both of them back to back. So other than the fact that Hawkeye and Ant-Man are missing when we know they filmed scenes, not a huge amount of red flags would have come up if, after all that epic filming, you saw this film. Like, they could have been even more, but, you know, they still pulled some stuff off. The Russos and Marcus and McFeely signed on 6 months after the announcement. You know, I guess things were going well with that relationship, and they were like, you know what, Joss might be done, so you're on board now. They filmed, as I said, back to back. Both these films they filmed in Atlanta, Scotland, England, and New York. And, I mean, it's built on everything they've been doing since the Avengers with Thanos. Some stuff that happened before that, right through Guardians, everything. It's all the movies. It's where they've been leading. What more do you want? Ben is not probably going to do a history of comics. We, on our preview episode of this movie, you did talk a little bit about the Infinity Gauntlet, that whole saga.
The only thing related to the Infinity Gauntlet / War comic book that is of any relevance is that Thanos gets the Infinity Stones and the Gauntlet and snaps his fingers, and then bad things happen.
Yes.
That's about the extent to which they adapted that story.
Yes. Thanos, Jim Starlin created him, arguably a rip-off of Darkseid. The Infinity Gauntlet houses the stones that let him do basically whatever he wants.
We don't there's no Adam Warlock in this movie, there's no death in this movie.
I think God can override the Infinity Gauntlet, or the one above all, but that seems unlikely to make an appearance.
Yeah.
Okay, so here I go now, attempting to go through the plot of this movie, and for us to try and keep this under 3.5 hours.
I told you, there are 4 chunks to this movie.
There are, but I'm going to attempt it by plot development. So here we go. So the Asgardian ship that we saw at the end of Ragnarok is sieged by Thanos' Sanctuary 2. Thanos and the Black Order, aka, the children of Thanos, slaughter or defeat everyone on board. Heimdall manages to send Hulk back to Earth before getting murdered himself. Thor is forced to watch as Loki is killed. Thanos claims the Space Stone from inside the Tesseract and leaves as the ship explodes. So, Josh Brolin is Thanos. He is incredibly good. The voice is amazing. It doesn't sound like typical Josh Brolin. I feel he's doing a bit of a voice for this. The motion capture is excellent. His facial expressions, particularly later on in the movie, particularly the stuff with Gamora, phenomenal. Some of the best CG stuff I think I've seen when it comes to that. Straight away, he's monologuing, he's being a badass, he's got an aura to him that is just immediately grand. I feel they fixed the sort of scale issue that I had with him in Guardians, where he didn't seem very large, and I think of him as this giant hulking monstrosity. And they've achieved that here, like when he hands Gamora a cup of soup or whatever, and it's like a tiny thimble in his hand, and then she takes it from him and it fills both her hands.
There are 2 very important things that they do.
Yes.
In this scene. A lot of it is down to how physically imposing this character is, and like how much of a payoff it does feel like. But in his first appearance, properly in a movie, he beats the Hulk and then kills Loki.
And he's already beaten up Thor. Thor debuts in the movie, a bloody mess held in one hand. Yeah, him beating up the Hulk is such a statement. Like, I said the biggest statement of intent they could probably make is if he kills Thor, ostensibly a god. They didn't go with that. Instead, he beats the shit out of the Hulk, because it's not that he's necessarily stronger, it's just he has the same level of sort of strength and resistance, but he has technique. He has a mind. It's a boxer fighting a drunk guy swinging wild. And just seeing him out fist fight the Hulk and just slam him into the ground is amazing. And I love that is set up by Loki repeating back that line, "We have a Hulk," that Tony said to him in the Avengers. That coming full circle is a lovely, lovely touch.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of, like, everything they do with Banner and Hulk in this film.
How do you read this? Because obviously for the rest of the movie, Banner is attempting to transform into Hulk and failing, and the effects on it are pretty good. Like, he's starting to turn green at the neck, and then it goes away. At one point, his face does go Hulk, and Hulk yells no, and then goes away, and he's talking to Hulk. I feel the only possible interpretation of this is Hulk is scared because he got his ass kicked for the very first time in his life.
That is exactly what I think is happening, is that Hulk met someone who was more than a match for him. Yeah. Like, this isn't his fights with Thor, where him and Thor are, like, pretty evenly matched, and, like, Thor would probably have beaten Hulk if the fight had gone on fairly in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, the Hulkbuster was relatively even until he dropped a building on him, and then he was still okay, and then he got sucker punched. This is, he got his ass handed to him. And he is an unstoppable monster, and he got absolutely destroyed. And we forget Hulk has the sort of psychology, the sort of level of mental development of a child, and that goes up a bit in Ragnarok, but it seems to have regressed with this. And Kevin Feige talked about how Ragnarok kicked off a new sort of 3-film journey for Hulk, and I thought, well, where can we really go from where we were? And it turns out it's here, where he is learning fear. And I hope somehow, some way I've seen this done in the comics. I hope we get some kind of mental representation of a conversation between the two characters, a la Legion, like they do this all the time.
I feel like the ways they're going to go is either going to be like a reconciliation and Banner is more in control as Hulk via a conversation, or they're going to do something like Grey Hulk.
Yeah.
Like that is the only way I can see this going, is that like maybe the reconciliation is through a new color, and so when Hulk makes his inevitable appearance in Avengers 4, it's going to be as a new version of Hulk, which is like a more balanced, more.
Yeah.
But my only issue, I feel like I like what they do with Hulk, but I do feel the repeated elements of it are probably the only joke in the movie, I think, that goes on a bit too long. Like, because they do the beat like 2 or 3 times, and it just goes on that tiny bit too long. And I think
they're tipping their hand a bit too much with how it's going to play out a bit. I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't know how it will play out, but that this is what they're doing. If they'd been a little bit more subtle with it, that he tries a couple of times and it doesn't quite work out, maybe. But it seems like it's every time Banner's on screen, he's making an attempt to become the Hulk and failing.
Like we get it in the final fight. He tries for 2 seconds and then he kills one of the. They're taking their hand too much, and I think it's a good beat to play, but I think they overplay it, and I think it's the only character beat that I think is overplayed.
Yeah. We'll get into the Children of Thanos in a couple of scenes' time, I think. I do think it's quite effective having the Ebony Maw, like, announce Thanos and give his little spiel that's starting with the opening credits and all of that. I think that's very effective as well. And Thanos shedding himself of the armour after obtaining the second stone as he grows in power and he needs less of that stuff. It's a good way to sort of marry together the two looks for Thanos that are the most prominent in the comics. The fully armoured one, and then that one that was around the time of Annihilation, where he's kind of like wearing either no shirt or like a white cloak type thing. Yeah, it's the two looks.
One interesting thing quickly. Did you peg who the voice was of the distress signal at the beginning of the movie?
No.
Well, the rumour is it's Kenneth Branagh.
Ah, that would be cool. Yeah, it was a posh voice. Yeah.
Can
we address something real quick? Is Valkyrie alive? Because I'm very afraid she is not.
They have that line later on in the movie where Thor goes, he killed half the Asgardians.
Yeah, but he also blew up the ship. So probably the people he didn't kill are also dead.
I took it to mean that maybe Valkyrie took a cadre of Asgardians onto the Grandmaster's ship or something.
Again, Ragnarok was such a hit. There is definitely going to be a Thor 4, and you cannot do it without her. I wouldn't be stunned if she got her own goddamn movie.
Yeah, and isn't Tessa Thompson, like, she's been on set.
She is credited as appearing in Infinity War, and she did some press for it, and she didn't appear in this movie, so she's got to at least be in the next one.
Yeah, like, it is a question. I think it's probably the weirdest thing that we don't get.
Because, I mean, we see Houndel bite it, and, putting Idris Elba's name in the credits seems generous at best. But hey,
again, I feel like this is a farewell to those two actors. It's well deserved that Tom Hiddleston and Idris Elba, like, it's a good it's a good shorthand to show how powerful Thanos is. Like, they marry it with, he legitimately as a character feels intimidating, but killing off Loki and Heimdall in the space of 5 minutes and beating up the Hulk does raise the stakes up that little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, Hulk was the deciding factor in Avengers 1, really. I mean, everyone else was just doing good work, but Hulk just, like, smashed Loki to bits. I think Loki going out the way he did was nice because, I half expected us to... We've done this whole thing. He flip-flops back and forth. It seemed like he'd finally arrived in a place of, like, growing up almost and just going over to the side of general good, if a bit chaotic good. And it seemed like he was just going to immediately sell everyone out for the Tesseract and for Thanos' favour. Instead, it's a very reluctant... He says, kill Thor. But we see very quickly he doesn't mean that. And then afterwards, when he has the stone and everything... He makes that vague attempt to stab Thanos, and he goes out like that rather than as a snivelling worm. Like he gets a heroic death, and then he says he calls himself Odin's son and all this stuff. But it was a very nice ending for him, and pretty effective opener, I would say. Pretty dark, pretty here's Thanos, here's everything you need to know.
If you are someone who's come into this movie just having seen Thor Ragnarok and thinking, I wonder what will happen with that massive spaceship. This is a completely different tone.
You imagined a fight Thor barely survives, and instead, Thor already lost. You don't even get to see that. So Hulk lands in the middle of the Sanctum Sanctorum, reverts back to Bruce Banner, which, as we said, he stays for the rest of this movie. He warns Doctor Strange about Thanos coming. Ben called it. That is what's happening in that scene. Strange and Wong bring in Tony Stark. Wong tells them about the history of the Infinity Stones, blah, blah, blah. They try and form a plan. The Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian arrive for the Time Stone, and this little group fight back with the help of Spider-Man, but the Ebony Maw does kidnap Strange, leaves on his ship with Tony and Peter stowing away. Now, a lot happens here. First of all, Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper appearing in this. Didn't know she was. Glad I did know she was. She was in the promotional stuff. Very nice seeing them jogging, talking about children. You don't know at the beginning of this movie if Tony's going to survive it, so if that is their sort of final interaction, that would have been quite a nice one. He's also got this, not an arc reactor, but instead an apparently removable housing unit for nanobots, which lets him have his badass, bleeding edge tech throughout, and we see all these very cool new iterations on the Iron Man suit, loads of little addendums and accoutrements and special powers he develops on the spot.
It feels like after every time Iron Man appears in a movie, they just kind of go let's do something else. It's nice because it does fit Tony's character that he's constantly tinkering.
Yes.
But it's literally every single movie has some new form of way he puts the suit on, or some new form of so you've.
That's what you want. That's what you'd expect. Yeah. I want briefcases. I want rockets. I want bracelets. And this is the new one.
Yeah.
I find Strange and Tony's interactions surprisingly satisfying. I think Strange is a good person to talk back to Stark, and a movie full of people that talk back to Stark. I mean, he's had a lot of people giving him some shit, but he generally sort of wins those arguments, or temporarily wins them. I like how many people were giving him shit, and I thought Strange was quite a good one. I like the filming of when they go outside to see what's happening. That's a really well shot little scene as they're sort of heading around the corner and the camera doesn't see what's there yet and all that sort of stuff. It seemed very different to what Marvel normally do.
Yeah, they was even though if you've seen the trailers, you know what they're going to be finding. Yes. But it's still nice to have some kind of build up to this massive fuck off spaceship that's hovering over New York, which possibly is something scary to people who live in New York, who 6 years ago, as this movie states.
Not again. 6 years. Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah, the movie explicitly states 6 years.
Okay. You might want to have a word with Spider-Man Homecoming about that. Tom Vaughan Lawler as the Ebony Maw. Very, very creepy voice. I think the most effectively employed of the 4 children of Thanos in this movie. I could imagine him as a villain in his own right in a movie. He's pretty cool. Seeing him go one-on-one with Strange, seeing him just sort of toss aside Spider-Man and Wong and Tony. I thought that was all really well done. Terry Notary as Cull Obsidian, he's just the big dumb one who throws fists and is the easiest one to take out, it seems.
Does he even have a line in this movie, or is he literally just...
He's credited as having both the voice and the motion capture. I mean, he grunts. I don't know if he actually says anything, but But no, Ebony Maw is the sort of, the mouthpiece of Thanos' little operation. And in some ways it's a shame that they all die here, because I think he was my favourite of them. But yeah, the little fights that we get here with, Tony and Spider-Man, and it's good. We've had a very intense opening scene, and then we have some more traditional, light-hearted comic book fighting happening before it ramps back up again later.
This is the fight that's got time for lines such as, the aliens are here to steal a wizard's necklace.
Yes.
It's all very, flippant, and it feels very very true to these characters.
Yeah.
We've seen Tony and Peter interact before, so it's nice to throw in Doctor Strange as well into this mix. And, yeah, I think these three are possibly my favourite of the, consistent interactions we get in the movie.
Quite possible.
Just because they're the ones that spend the most time together and actually, build up to different things and have a lot of interactions with each other.
I was surprised by how much Strange is in it, to be honest.
I mean, there's the rumour that Benedict Cumberbatch is the only person that's seen the entirety of both scripts.
Yes. And I know he also had to, I think a lot of it was doubles, and he filmed his scenes later, so I don't know how much of this is real scenes, but he's certainly in a heck of a lot. Tony deliberating about the flip phone is a very nice little moment, and it's, interrupted, of course, before he has his breakthrough. There's a ton we could talk about just in this stretch, but we need to move on. Vision and the Scarlet Witch secretly in a relationship, having little rendezvous based on wherever her new little team are. They are attacked in Scotland by Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, seeking the Mind Stone in Vision's head, obviously. They are rescued by Steve Rogers and the Secret Avengers. Be still, my motherfucking loins. Bearded Steve Rogers is not something I was fully prepared for, even having seen the marketing material. The thing that came to mind was that episode of Community where Jeff, he starts taking those pills that make him even more confident, and the Dean is like, his shadow, even his shadow.
My God, I really enjoy... this is the first time we've got to see Scarlet Witch properly show off. We've had little bits and pieces, but she is holding her own against these two for the vast majority of it.
Because Vision gets stabbed very quickly, and
Vision is out. I think Vision makes one laser blast in this entire movie, and then it gets aimed back at him. But yeah, Scarlet Witch is just doing stuff and is a lot more proactive and really good. And Elizabeth Olsen finally gets to show off her skills.
Yeah, the accent doesn't feel as thick, and I think that's for the best. And you can say that's her acclimatizing to being around Americans, whatever, or maybe it's just a conscious decision to tone it back a bit. But
my God, the moment they get into that train station and the train goes past and you see the silhouette behind it, and Proxima Midnight throws that fucking spear, and then literally, in the article that I wrote about Captain America, the audience erupted at that. As Cap steps out the shadows, we've just seen a fight scene with 5 superpowered people struggling to take down Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian.
Yes.
We come to this. The three heroes without any powers kick the ass of Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, and it is glorious.
It is
Black Widow,
the coordinated strike of the Secret Avengers, and just really getting across. This is why you need a team. This is why Cap is the leader of said team. This is why it all worked out for you before you had this squabble, because they know what they're doing. They have a strategy, and one person hits after the other, as opposed to Tony just improvising, and Strange just improvising, and Spider-Man torn between his own instincts and obeying this older man. Seeing them just come in and just mop the floor with these clearly way more powerful people. I was like, fuck yeah, Falcon. Fuck yeah, Black Widow.
It's the little things, them throwing their weapons between each other.
Yes.
It's such a satisfying fight scene. Yeah, and I love it to pieces. Yeah. This is the most joy I felt in the start of this movie, is when these three show up and do this thing. Because previously it's been dark opening, fun superhero fight, and then 3 characters.
This is the shit you love about Captain America. This team of 4 individuals who make these movies, and many, many more production people. Obviously, I don't want to be that guy, but they know what the fuck they're doing with a Captain America style fight scene, and this is what we're getting here in a movie that's dominated by lasers and crazy special effects. This is just good, honest to goodness, great stunt work and fight choreography, and it's awesome. I think it's very cute that before they interrupt, it's a battle of couples, because they don't really state it in the film, but Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive are supposed to be married, I believe. and of course Vision and Scarlet Witch are together as well. Carrie Coon plays Proxima Midnight. For me, the second best of the Children of Thanos. There is this link with the leftovers and all these people disappearing. I would think it's a happy marriage of she's a really good actress and that's a nice little wink and a nod. I was worried, based on this scene alone, that they were going to waste her, but she does get to speak a lot more later on. So.
Yeah, she gets another one of my favourite choreography, heavy, like, stunt fight scenes later on in the movie.
Yes. Michael James Shaw as Corvus Glaive, again, barely talks. He looks like he does in the comics. He's quite cool.
Yeah, like, Corvus Glaive of the Black Order is the one who gets the most shafting, because in the comic books, Corvus Glaive is probably the most memorable.
I think he's, like, essentially Thanos' number 2. Like
yeah, exactly.
The Ebony Maw almost has his own agenda, and there's debate about whether he's even alive. But yeah, Corvus is kind of his general, it kind of seems like. So he is kind of reduced to spear-throwing guy in cloak.
And like they also start to play up, because obviously at the end of this fight scene, he talks about how he can't walk anymore. And then when Proxima Midnight shows up later, they go, "Oh, where's the other one?" And he goes, "Oh, you will pay for his life with yours." And they start to like see this thing where like he's died off screen. Obviously, he hasn't.
Yeah.
But it's this very understated thing that they start doing to like make it seem that they've killed one of them.
Yeah, and I think it's all just part of Proxima is very clearly very clever, and we'll get that in the Wakanda battle. By the way, that whole Wakanda battle thing is up front going to be the bit where I accidentally gloss over the most details, so just be prepared to hold on to your favourites and say them out loud when you can. So let's move on. The Guardians of the Galaxy pick up the Asgardian distress signal. They get there, obviously everyone's dead except Thor, who they bring aboard. Once he's recovered, he sort of briefs them on the situation, says he has to go make a new hammer. Rocket and Groot go with him while the others head to nowhere, as in KN, nowhere, which, as we know, the Collector has the Reality Stone there based on the end of Thor the Dark World, the most important thing to happen in Thor the Dark World. Potentially the only important thing to happen in Thor the Dark World. They get there too late. Thanos has killed everyone. He takes Gamora. And he gets the Reality Stone, obviously. The Guardians, let's start with the Guardians. You know, the song playing at the beginning and just moving the camera around the bridge and sort of getting to know the team again. The Russos do a very good job of making a little mini Guardians movie. And Peter's got a sort of new vibe to it. I like him a lot better than I did in Guardians 2. I think we're back to sort of Guardians 1 style Peter, where he's a bit annoying but not obnoxious. I don't know, I feel there's some part of his journey in Guardians 2 where he's a bit annoying in not a good way. And then I feel this was much better. You know, all the stuff with him trying to one-up Thor and putting on the voice, you're playing right into Chris Pratt's strengths here, and I do like the little cracks about his weight, because I guess he didn't feel the need to put the muscle on or something. I don't know. I assume he got buff for Jurassic World too, but it seems to be a little dig at he's not as ripped as he normally is for a Guardians movie or whatever.
So obviously, like, they went to James Gunn for the recommendation of the Rubber Band Man for the song that's playing at the start, and already it's probably one of my favourite musical moments, because it's stuff like Star-Lord telling Drax to dance, and then Drax is just completely passed out in the chair because he doesn't care. They just completely nail the voices for these characters in such a short space of time, and it's good, because I went in this movie hearing Chris Pratt's interview where he was like, "Oh, I'm a glorified cameo," and fuck off, are you, mate?
Yeah, he's got one of the stronger journeys in this goddamn thing. I like that Gamora's singing along to that song as well, and you know they're clearly a couple now after Guardians 2. Although he calls himself a long-term booty call, but come on now, Peter. I love all of that. I think Drax is back to being the right kind of funny.
Why is Gamora?
Him labeling Thor as a pirate angel, or it's like a pirate and an angel had a child, and just admiring an unconscious Thor, I thought was a really, really good beat.
So I want to talk about this. The longest comedic beat in the movie is Drax standing still eating the nuts.
That worked for me. I like that. I thought that was
cool. I liked it too, but one second watch, I was sat there going like, this is like 2 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Is devoted to this one bit. There's so much stuff going on, and yet the movie somehow found the time to have Dave Bautista very, very slowly eat a nut.
I feel like I'm invisible. Mantis turning up as well, and she's fitting in well with the team. I think it's a good vibe. I don't want her to constantly be relegated to like Drax's punching bag and stuff like that. I thought she did a good job here in a limited role as well. It's the Guardians. We love them. We know them. A teenage Groot is a thing. He plays video games. It wasn't as obnoxious as I thought. I hope it doesn't extend beyond this movie. I hope when he is reversed, I hope in Guardians 3 he is an adult again, but...
Maybe we get, like, douchey millennial Groot in Guardians 3. He's like a hipster now. Like, he's got that bark in, like, a little swoop.
Yeah, and then, them getting to nowhere, and I'm sort of skipping ahead here, but Gamora temporarily killing Thanos. It was like, oh. And several people in my screening were like, oh. Like, they thought, they bought this, and it's like, well, something's going to happen here, but...
Because I knew it was the Reality Stone, I was waiting for that beat to come about, but it was really well done, because Zoe Saldana is used so much better in this movie than she is in either two Guardians movies.
Giving her that emotional thing to play off with Thanos there constantly is a very good decision. And she gets to be an absolute badass.
I have seen complaints.
What, that she's in it too much?
As in, she's fridged.
In a movie where so many people didn't die, I might go with that, but so many people die, and she gets a meaningful death.
I can sympathise with people who think that decision, and it definitely is female character dying for the emotional journey of the male character, but this isn't the villain killing the loved one, this is the villain killing his loved one, and I think there's enough nuance here, and... It's the only relationship with Thanos, apart from Nebula, that is actually being developed in any movies and stuff like that. And, like, I think, again, this is the third movie we've had of talk of this relationship between the two of them. And the fact that they stick the landing... Yeah,
it is a very complicated relationship dynamic that goes beyond, I was his sort of half-captive daughter and I hate him. It's not that simple. Like, she did grow up under his parentage for however many years, and I can see that argument. I think it's handled pretty well. And also, I know it's not real, but she kicks Thanos' ass in a way that no one else does. Like, Tony makes him bleed, very brief, a tiny amount, and it's treated as a huge moment. She, though it is not real, murders him. And it's like, oh, you're a badass. So,
my other question is, on this scene of nowhere, did you think Drax and Mantis were dead?
Yes, immediately. I was like, what the fuck? We're doing a Guardians 3, aren't we? But this is before it got way beyond this. That's the thing. With the Reality Stone, it's like, how does this work? Has he got really effective illusions? Or is it like, he can do things, but they aren't permanent? Because when he leaves, they revert back to how they are. And then stuff like, Peter tries to shoot his gun and bubbles come out. A thing that he goes to repeatedly. It's like, I didn't know Thanos liked bubbles so much, but hey-ho. I don't know, like, the powers there seem a bit nebulous, where, like, is he affecting reality, or is he just able to craft really effective illusions, or does it only work when he's in proximity? Can he not make things stick permanently?
Yeah, the two things that happen to Drax and Mantis are callbacks to the comics.
Oh, okay.
Like they do happen in the Infinity Gauntlet, I believe, like those exact, like, one becoming like Concertina and the other one kind of like becoming chunks and stuff like that. Yeah, they are two of the powers that are exhibited, and it's nice that we get them, but like for like genuinely about 20 seconds I was like, what the fuck are we actually doing this right now?
I was like, okay, you're serious right now. I know Batista wasn't happy with his role as Drax, but damn, son, like, you just getting him out of there.
I do want to ask one thing. How do you feel about Star-Lord not being able to kill Gamora?
I like it. I think it's very true to his character in that, like, he realizes the seriousness of what she's asking, but, like, he is unable to accept, because we see it reflected later with Vision and the Scarlet Witch. We have two couples here where one has asked the other to kill them and the other won't do it. Thanos saying, you expect too much of him. Like, he's got so little, and she's almost everything he has. Could you stand there and murder your loved one, regardless of the consequences? Who knows? It's powerful. I think it's really well handled, where everything I just said is kind of garbage, because he tries. It's just he tried too late, or, like...
Yeah, he tries too late, and it doesn't succeed, and one of my favourite beats of the movie is related to this later on, but that is definitely for later on.
So Thanos tortures a captive Nebula to force Gamora to surrender the location of the Soul Stone. It's not on Wakanda. It is not the heart-shaped herb. The stones do not spell out Thanos. However, it is...
Hill! It's at the top of a hill.
Okay, alright, we'll go with that. The pair travel to Vormir, where a very much alive motherfucking Red Skull...
I screamed.
Lost my mind.
like when it happened, I was just like, I feel like this has got to be someone that I recognise.
I'm like, then... who is this just floating nebulous cape? The voice is weird. I was like, oh, we're doing this.
Yeah, so I did text you one vague spoiler, which was, it's not who you think it is. And it was in relation to this scene, because I was
I thought you were talking about the cameo from someone from Arrested Development.
No. It's not Hugo Weaving, was what I was going for.
I was 100% convinced until I sat down and started doing the notes. I was like, I knew that motherfucker would come back. I knew they'd get him. I knew that they just had to name the price. And, they've probably just improved like maybe he's just doing the voice and it's a CGI appearance or something. But no, it's Ross Marquand as the Red Skull here. I guess it helps that it's such a heavy prosthetic. He's wearing that, could now be an improved version or could just be enhanced with CG. He's wearing a big hood. And Hugo Weaving did an impression of Werner Herzog in the first place. And it's a very stereotypical German accent. So if you do things like that, it's easier to do an impression of that impression.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I genuinely freaked out. Like, I did not expect this to happen. I mean, it 100% makes sense considering Marcus McFeely wrote First Avenger. So this has been in their back pocket since 2011.
He was in a draft of Civil War that Crossbones was working for Red Skull and he was still alive. I have to think this is not the last time we see this, because if he's alive and he knows something about Infinity Stones and Steve is alive, there has to be another face-to-face between these two characters. But it's bold if this is a one-time thing just to give some exposition.
Yeah, but like, oh god, I don't think any moment in this movie made me react more than this. Yeah. And it was funny, because I didn't cheer when Steve showed up for the first time in this movie, but in this scene, I looked to my right and was just like, what the fuck?
Oh, before I forget, I was in a screening, there was a woman who could not handle certain things that happened. She very clearly had some favourites. Anything on Wakanda, Steve, stuff like that. They appear, she's clapping, she's losing her mind. Quite entertaining, occasionally annoying.
Yeah, a similar thing happened. There was a guy behind me. He was commenting on the entire movie. The best one being any time Okoye was on screen, it was just like, yes, Michonne, yes.
Oh no!
Yeah,
well, Ross Marquand in the Walking Dead?
He is.
I guess the dude wouldn't have known that though. So yes, Red Skull tells them the only way to get the Soul Stone, because it is special amongst the other stones, is to sacrifice a loved one. And Thanos hurls Gamora over the edge of this cliff to her death and gets the stone. Such a good moment. Such a good moment, because Gamora is initially triumphant. She's like, ha, you asked the universe said no. You lose because you don't love anything. And it's like, you can see where it's going before she begins this rant, because his back is to her and his face has turned and there are tears and he must do it. He's apparently stronger than Peter Quill was, because he had to make the same choice. And because it isn't the same as the whole clicking and everything goes away, it seems less likely we'll come back from this, but I have to feel we are, because I can't imagine Guardians 3 without Gamora, and she's doing her best work now, and I feel that if you're James Gunn and you didn't look at this and go, oh wow, and get new ideas of what to do with her, then I don't know who you are as a filmmaker.
This feels like such a huge and pivotal moment to have not play out in a Guardians movie.
Yeah.
If we're under the vague notion that these movies can be watched without watching other things, you can watch Guardians of the Galaxy as a trilogy without having seen this movie. I don't think it's going to be possible, but we have to be able to keep that notion in that they can't come back to Guardians 3 after Guardians 2 and basically be, yeah, Gamora died.
Yeah, exactly. Some part of me was like, is this a test? Because he wakes up in the pool of water, I wondered if she would be there or something, and it's like, it is a test of character rather than an actual required sacrifice. I was also left thinking, hey, isn't one of the powers of the Soul Stone that you can resurrect the dead, but maybe if you do it on the person you sacrificed it for, you immediately lose it or something, I don't know. But
yeah. But yeah, the only way that this sticks is if they do keep the dusting ending, and Guardians 3 is the Ravager Guardians that we see at the end of Guardians 2.
That would be the boldest thing the MCU ever do. ever, including killing half the cast. Everyone in that scene is nailing it.
Yeah, like Zoe Saldana and Josh Brolin are just... It's another level for Zoe Saldana, and Josh Brolin like gets to emote. Yeah. I don't want to say that Thanos is sympathetic, because he fundamentally is not. But what the movie does is it explains what his point of view is.
Yeah.
And even though you spend the entire movie going, no, this guy's fucking nuts, the movie spends enough time and effort going into the emotional and reasons why he does it, so that it works. Like, again, like I've seen people saying like, oh, it's not sympathetic, and I don't think that's important. I think it's just the movie nails the why of what he's doing.
Yeah, it's you have to establish a villain's like motive and philosophy, and that they really believe in it, that it isn't just mwahaha finger pyramid of doom, I want money, I want power. This is a cause he cares about so deeply that he loves one thing and he kills her. I don't want to call her a thing, but you know. And I think the most effective thing they do with this, is potentially more than killing Gamora, is that when he gives his little exposition using the Reality Stone to Tony, etc., we establish he lived through this. This isn't just a plan he came up with. He saw what happened. He had this idea. They shot him down. His planet was wiped out by overpopulation. And he's like, I ignored my call once. I can't do it again. And I think the fact that he was, in a way, right, that really helps. Because, I mean, she says, you know, you don't know that, and that is the thing that stops it from being fully sympathetic. But it is quite an effective, motivating factor for him, is that he lived it. He didn't just theorize it. This isn't Tony just going, well, we have to do this, otherwise this.
Yeah, this is the part that made me realise, like, if we were still doing all Marvel performances for this movie, which we're not...
There are more movies, we will extend the list, and Brolin will be the first one to go on it.
Brolin will be the first one, and I want to campaign for Zoe Saldana to break away from the Guardians thing that we did beforehand.
Difficult.
I know it's difficult, but she's so good. She is. Because it's not only Josh Brolin's Thanos' reaction to this, but also what Star-Lord does when he finds out.
This is a discussion for in a few minutes. Okay, so to jump into a very different part of the plot, which happened a lot in the movie. Sometimes you're like really invested, you're like, oh my god, now what? And then you jump to another bit and you're like, but I guess this is also fun.